this is Chris with Gun&ShotTV, and today I'm going to be talking about my Ruger Blackhawk. I've mentioned a couple other videos. I was looking into getting into cowboy action shooting, and for that you need 2 single action revolvers, and you need to shoot a lot of rounds. So I was looking at something that I could shoot and reload, and what could I shoot if I didn't reload, what's cheap, what's available. So I ended up settling on 38 Special 357 caliber. But I thought, well, what if I can't find ammo? What if I'm on the road? So I did go for the convertible. So this actually has a 9mm cylinder, so it can fire 9mm Luger, similar to a Ruger single 6 that goes between 22 long rifle and 22 mag. It's as simple as that, and now I can shoot 9mm. The only thing that I would say with the convertible model that you might want to take into account is the 9mm for me has shot low. My theory would be, not actually having any scientific evidence whatsoever about the reason for this, is that it's the FMJ plated bullets that I'm using. They're going to have more resistance going down the barrel, more friction, and so they're probably not going to come out quite as fast, and there's also a chance for the gases to escape while they're slowly going down the barrel from that extra friction. So they do seem to shoot lower than my cast hand loads of 357 or 38 Special. It's not a huge deal. There's adjustable sights. You can always dial that in knowing it, but it is something to keep in mind. You will have to change your sights if you want to shoot accurately between one and the other. Some people feel that the 6.5-inch barrel is a little long. You can't do things with it. I mean, you can still twirl it. You can still quick draw. You can still do whatever. The sights are probably a bigger impediment to quickly handling the gun. So it is something to get used to because it is a heavy frame. But once you get used to it, it's not a huge drawback. So I wouldn't particularly worry about it. The Single Action Army was issued in a 7.5-inch barrel back during the Old West days. So the big things I've done are the grips here, and I've painted the front sight. These are Altamont grips. They're bonded ivory, which means it's ground up bone or whatever, set in a resin. And so it's essentially epoxy and ground up bone. I did have to file those down to get them to fit, and it was a little bit of work, but not a huge pain, and they actually fit. I did go through a bunch of other grips I ordered online, trying to find ones that fit and look nice, and the pickings are pretty slim. So I was happy to find these. Altamont's a good company, nice to work with. Here's the cylinder, and this is a 9mm cylinder. This is 38 357, so it's drilled all the way through, essentially. The 9mm cylinder is actually halfway through is where it stops being drilled out, and that's so the 9mm cases can headspace on the lip of the case rather than on the rim. So the case mouth actually is what keeps the whole round from sliding in and keeps it so when the hammer hits the primer actually goes off. So you can only really do that easily on a single action because you have your ejector rod to then get the case out. There are some double action revolvers like the Medusa that have some spring arrangement to get the rounds out or use moon clips, but this is probably the most convenient way of being able to shoot a revolver with 9mm ammo. An interesting distinction with the Ruger action is it doesn't have a half-cock safety like a Colt to unload. It just has all the way down and all the way back. On a Ruger, to load and unload it, you open the loading gate and that releases the cylinder. Put in your rounds, close it up, and you're good to fire. There's no other steps. The only thing that's kind of annoying on a Ruger, and it's same as a single 6 or anything like that, because there's no half cock, the cylinder doesn't actually index to where you need to load. Now I understand that there are some aftermarket parts that allow that, but you actually have to kind of manually rotate the cylinder into position to get to where you can put the ejector rod through. It's still a little bit more of a pain than a standard half cock on a Colt, But the transfer bar safety is awesome, and it means you can carry 6 rounds loaded. So, you know, it's one of those trade-offs that I think is worth it. I did break the transfer bar safety. I don't know how that happened. I was shooting it, and all of a sudden, the transfer bar fell out. So I called Ruger, and they sent me a new one for free. I was a bear to get in there and replace it, but apparently some of them are too thick, and so when the hammer hits, it's actually putting more pressure on the transfer bar than it should. So you can check for that by pulling the trigger, letting the hammer go down, and release the trigger. If the hammer moves further, your transfer bar is too thick, and it's probably going to snap in the same way that mine did. If you're looking for a single-action revolver that you can beat on and will probably outlast you, definitely look into the Ruger Blackhawks. They also make a vaquero with traditional sights. For what I'm doing, the adjustable sights are good for cowboy action shooting, but I also do a lot of hand loading, and I'd like to be able to mess around with the sights. So, and especially because it's a convertible, the adjustable sights are definitely worth having. So that was my rationale, but if you want something very traditional, go with the vaquero with the traditional cowboy sights. Thanks for watching.